Bulls fan, how are you feeling this season so far?
Well, I wish you would have had me on before the 5-game losing streak when the Bulls are playing their worst of the season. But in general, I'm feeling pretty good. I tried to tell everybody last year that the Bulls were back. They had a nice first half of the season. They made a trade for Nikola Vucevic. It looked like they were on the up and up. And then things fell off basically after the trade deadline, after the All-Star break. But this year, they came in, they looked great after signing DeRozan, after trading for Lonzo Ball, after signing for Alex Caruso. Unfortunately, Ball and Caruso have been hurt for a huge chunk of this season recently, so the Bulls' defense has fallen off. They ain't looking good, but as long as they're healthy for the playoffs, I'm excited to at least hopefully be able to go back home, see a playoff game in the United Center for the first time in ages.
So I'm glad I have you on here as a Bulls fan because I don't get to talk to a lot of Bulls fans anymore. It's very weird how the world has changed for the worst. And that being said, when the offseason happened and all of the trades happened and the Lakers did what they did and it seemed like it just monopolized the airways, which it always does. But I do specifically remember hearing people talking about the Chicago Bulls and what they did. And no one seemed to be overly impressed by it. And I remember thinking at the time by myself, like, this seems like this is going to be a really good thing for the Bulls. When they did everything they did, were you like, why is everyone talking about the Lakers? We legitimately just did something great.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought it was, as a Spurs fan, you watched DeMar DeRozan. You saw how his game grew after the Kawhi Leonard trade. I lived in Toronto for a couple of years, so I watched a lot of DeRozan back in the day, and then doing the podcast, had to keep up with the Spurs as well. So I don't think that everybody had their eyes on DeMar DeRozan for the past few seasons when he's been in San Antonio. And maybe the reputation for DeRozan was kind of set in stone with the way things ended in Toronto, where it was like, him and Kyle Lowry went head-to-head with LeBron season after season after season and just kept coming up short. But as it turned out, when he came to the Bulls, he didn't necessarily have to be the number one guy, though he was. He just had to be the number one guy for them. Maybe a 1.5 alongside with Zach LaVine, but it started popping. That being said, I didn't expect the Bulls' defense to be as good as it was in the first half of the season. Having Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso as guards, they're just getting after it at the point of attack, forcing a bunch of turnovers and then being able to turn that defense into offense, get a lot of baskets that way. With Vucevic as the main guy, you got to have some solid defenders on the perimeter. That's why they've fallen off in the meantime. But to see them click right away, I thought was pretty impressive. I remember during the preseason, they were winning a bunch of preseason games by like 40 points, scoring a ton of points. And everyone's like, oh, the preseason doesn't mean nothing. Doesn't mean anything. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't mean anything unless it's the Bulls, in which case it means a whole lot. And it did for a little.
It has to be something
sometimes. It still can. Yeah, sometimes it means something a little bit.
You're like, we broke up with DeMar DeRozan, and then he got way hotter. And that's exactly what's happening right now. You guys got the hot version, the hot version of DeMar DeRozan. And we're just like, well, it didn't work here. On a scale of 1 to 10, Grayson Allen, punchable or super punchable?
I'll go with 10 on super punchable. I think that the thing that was super impressive to me, the Bulls just played the Bucks for the first time after the Grayson Allen, Alex Caruso incident. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, they've brought in Tristan Thompson off the waiver wire in the buyout market. So he wasn't even a Bull when the Alex Caruso, Grayson Allen first incident happened. But he's the guy who's like, we're not letting that happen again. That ain't happening here. So he was fired up. I love to see that. A new veteran to the team who is instantly the guy who wants to go out there and just smash bodies. It turned out being Derrick Jones Jr. who flagrant fouled him in the game. So, I think the Bulls and the Bucks are even for this one. But the Bulls probably still owe the Bucks one for Giannis Antetokounmpo versus Mike Dunleavy back in 2015. I'll never forget
you're holding on to
Giannis.
that.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Giannis's first playoff appearance, he got super mad at Mike Dunleavy. That was like one of the Bulls' most recent playoff moments. That was a long time ago. So revenge is coming.
I get it. I hold on to things for decades.
Yeah.
I love that Tristan Thompson, he's like the professional journeyman. Like he knows that the second you trade that you are a wee guy. We're going to do. I've always thought that's a weird part about sports because it takes me such a long time to sort of adapt to my new surroundings that the idea of me saying we right off the bat feels just inauthentic. He embraces it. Like he's not even there yet. He hasn't even landed in Chicago. He's already like we. I almost admire it if I didn't think it was so weird.
Yeah, it is a little strange where you're like, feels like a bunch of guys rolling up to a fight, and he's like leading the way, and you're like, what? What?
Who are
Tristan
you?
Thompson? The best version of this to me was Gary Trent Jr. last season. There was the big trade between the Raptors and the Trailblazers. Gary Trent came over from Portland to Toronto, and instantly he starts saying "We the North" in every single interview. I was like, you've been there for like 20 minutes, but he's also like, he's like a free agent coming into the season. So like saying "We the North" a bunch of times is a great way to ingratiate yourself to the fans. They're like, we can't let this guy go. He's part of the North here.
It's a good company, man. It's like, I admire it. I don't have that skill and I never have. And I kind of wish I did.